it's Sweety Pie and welcome back. Back again. Sweety Pie's back. We're doing the eyeshadow palette tag. I've been waiting like a week and a half to film this. I literally just did this intro, but I had my air conditioning on. Yeah, it's already air conditioning time in Canada. It's been like 30 degrees. I am like, what is going on? Spring is out the window. We're gonna get some serious thunderstorms soon though, for sure. Anyway, I'm out of quarantine. I am back to work right now. It has been insane. It has been great, and just like it eases me to get back into a routine of life. I will say that. I did not think I was the type of person that could wig out just because my routine was messed up. Yes, I am that person. But regardless, I've been back to work. Things have been great. And yeah, I'm going to get into this video because I'm excited. I have so many eyeshadow palettes to talk about. So many. And I'm excited. So let's get into this. So this tag was created, and I actually saw Angelique Niquavist is I think how you say her name. I saw her do it, but Samantha March and another YouTuber that I also watched Emily Noel's video on this. I will link both of them down below, as well as Emily's and Angelique's video. I watched both of them. They're both amazing, so I have to continue on the trend and do this video. I am such a copycat. I know. What an unoriginal bitch. I know. Anyway, let's get on with this. First, I'm gonna HandyDandy notebook. Newest palette. So actually the newest palette, this is terrible. This is the newest palette. And there's been quite a few palette releases that I just didn't buy, honestly. The Urban Decay, the new electric palette, I wanted that, but I was just like, you know what? No, I don't need that. So this is actually the last palette that I purchased, and it's pretty good. Like, honestly, I did like a first impressions on it on my channel, and I'm still loving it. I used this palette and the another palette that's coming up today for my look here, and they are really beautiful. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is I'm actually starting to do my base makeup after my eyes. Who am I? Like, what? I have never done that, and I actually do see the merit in it. Although, you know, sometimes like around the corner of my eye, I'm like, what the hell how do I get foundation here while I have eyeshadow? Regardless, that's been a thing lately. But yeah, I used this palette today. I've used this several times after it. I definitely favor the mattes more than the shimmers, just because I don't feel like sometimes the shimmers, oop, I just dug my nail in that. Sometimes the shimmers just aren't the standing point to these palettes. Like, I will say I really love the shade Empowered. It's really pretty, but the mattes are definitely what bring me into this palette. They're really pretty. They work really well. I don't have a ton of blending issues. They give you like a cream shade for someone that's light complexion like me. A cream shade is really necessary, especially when you're trying to get into this inner corner with really dark colors and you're not trying to like really make this inner corner like the same shade as your like lid, if that makes sense. Either way, really cute palette. I like it a lot. I have a dupe for her original palette called the OMG palette by Crown Brushes, and I like this palette as well, but this one with the pinks is just stunning. Very nice. I like this palette a lot, and it is the newest palette. The oldest palette, and I thought about this because there were a couple palettes that I have really like old palettes, and there's some that are in this little tag as well, but I think the oldest palettes I have are these. I think I got these on eBay when I was like maybe 20, like, oh gosh, I can't even remember. These I think were on my old Instagram. Anyway, this is what they look like, and I'm gonna see if you can still purchase these, because I was actually swatching these, and like, take a look at what that looks like. I used the crap out of this. Like, I was so proud of myself. And then when I was swatching, like, some of these shades are still really pretty. Like I can understand why that, like, this was a popular thing for me, and I was like, damn, I like this. So you get, there's one that is like a, they don't even have shades or anything on them, but there's one that's like colorful shades, and then there is a neutral one, which I remember I got like a little while after, so you can see that it's not really used as much. I hope you can see that. But like, still, the colors in here, like, there's some shades that are really pretty. So I'm gonna see if you can still get this. I'm not sure if you can. They even have like a duochrome. It's not bad. Like, that's not great, but it's not bad. Anyway, Technique Electric Beauty 12 color eyeshadow palettes. Those are the oldest palettes in my collection, and I don't use them on my eyes anymore just because I don't know if that's healthy. Most expensive eyeshadow palette. Now, the problem with this, and whoa, where is it? Oh, right here. Now, the problem with this is that, like, if you're not going by like taxes or by shipping or anything like that, like, like a lot of palettes of mine kind of range in the exact same price range, but something that infuriated me, like, with a passion, was this palette. This palette altogether in Canadian dollars cost me $85. Like, I could not believe how much this palette cost me. Now, as you can see, I have used this palette a lot. This is the Juvia's Place Magic Palette. Beautiful eyeshadows. I have so many of her palettes. I love her eyeshadows. Her shimmers are to freaking die for. But with shipping and processing and customs, oh my God, customs was like $20. I was like floored by the price of what I actually paid for this, that I was like, is it actually worth it after that at the end of the day? You know, and then as time has gone on, honestly, I've spent a lot of money on a lot of different palettes. Where? Ah, right here, sorry. I spent a lot of money on this. This is the Tati Beauty palette. This too was really quite expensive. I love this palette. I love Tati, and I will keep buying. I bought her Blendiful. I will continue to buy whatever she brings out, because I think that everything that she brings out is going to have some kind of merit of greatness to it. I think she is I love her. I love Tati. But like, it doesn't like neglect to say that this one and that one were probably close to the same amount. But because this was the first one, I was just floored. And I didn't have to pay any customs with the Tati palette. I definitely paid a lot of customs for this, which I was, I don't know, again, weirded out about. Like, some companies, I don't pay anything, or, you know, like, they're straight up and they make you pay for it while you're in like the checkout process. I don't know, I think I like that better. But yeah, anyway, most expensive palette, it's the Juvia's Place Magic palette for me. I'm sorry, don't come for me. Least expensive palette was actually a palette I picked up not long ago. This is the LA Colors eyeshadow palette, the nude eyeshadow palette. I've used this a couple times and it's not half bad. Like, most of the shades are like you want to put you want to put an eyeshadow primer down, like a good one, before you start going in with this. But it's definitely my least expensive. I think this was $2. I caught it at the Dollarama, I think I did. Yeah, was it? Yeah, because when I was looking through, I was like, well, what is my least expensive? And yeah, this definitely lands on the most shades for the least expensive amount. And it just looks like that. And like some of these shades aren't that bad. Like there's a couple duds, I won't lie. I wouldn't have to lie, like it's a freaking dollar store eyeshadow palette, but like not that bad either. Can be worked, I will put it that way. See? All right, least expensive. So everyday eyeshadow palette. I gotta stop slouching because it looks funny in my videos. Everyday eyeshadow palette. Now, I had to look through my eyeshadow palettes for this because I want variety, okay? I looked at this question because I don't have an everyday eyeshadow palette. I use a different eyeshadow palette every freaking day. That is my favorite thing to do, is to look through my collection and go, okay, this is what I'm gonna use today. This is what I'm gonna use. You know, I wanna use this color or that shade, or, you know, mix this with that. I want, like, that's what I like to do. But if I had to pick one eyeshadow palette in my collection, just give me a second here. I am going to pick this one. This is my Makeup Forever Z palette. And in this Z palette, and I think I've shown this on my channel before, this is, I think, the biggest Z palette you can get from Makeup Forever. They even come with a really hefty sheet, which I do, you know, keep because just in case like a shadow wants to pop out. This has 5 Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes in it. It has Norvina, it has Riviera, it has Sierra, it has Subculture, it has, what else does it have? The Soft Glam, is that everything? Subculture, Norvina, Riviera, oh, and the palette with, what is her name? The drag queen. Oh, gosh, it's not coming to me. Either way, her palette is in here as well. These ones right here. She had some very, like, she had, like, a yellow, a really, you know, bright pink, a purple. It has every freaking thing in it. And I just tore the palettes apart and threw the shades in here. I had a couple casualties, which weirdly enough, like the casualties were mostly with these like pigments, these like pressed pigment ones, but they've held up really nicely. And like, come on, there's everything in here. You have like your super neutrals, the Subculture with its greens. Then you have like the Alyssa palette that has like all these pops of really, really pretty color. And then all of these neutrals up here. It's a palette fantasy. Like, it's so good. And I love these palettes for Makeup Forever. I actually wish I had bought maybe like 1 or 2 more, because after you start getting a lot of eyeshadow palettes, you realize that the amount of storage you need is insane. So it was a heck of a lot easier for me to just depot 6 palettes, and this is heavy, like, and put them in here. So yeah, that is probably an everyday palette that would definitely get me through many days. Many days. All right, so most colorful palette. I have one for you. All right. So this is definitely a palette I go to a lot if I want to do something like really punchy, especially with purples or blues. This is the Artistry palette. This is the 35B. I don't think you can get this in the US anymore. I know you can get it in Canada because I only got it like not even a year ago. Maybe 2 years ago. No, like a year ago. And it looks like this. A lot of people have seen this already. The shimmers, not that impressed, but these mattes are definitely workable mattes. I really like actually these, like they're pigmented, they pat on the eye really nicely. I think this is probably my most colorful palette. Now I have another palette that I'm going to talk about that's like a couple more that are really colorful as well, but like if you're looking for like a whole color story where they go from yellow to, you know, orange to pink to purple to blue to green to, you know, they have a black, they have a really deep blue. There's shimmers like pressed out. Ooh, I do like this shimmer though. This one is really pretty. That one right there. But yeah, if you can get this, if you're in Canada, it's a pretty good steal. Like if you're looking for some colorful palette, that the mattes work pretty damn well actually, in my opinion. Okay, smallest palette. Okay, I have a couple palettes because I was like, okay, definitely my smallest palettes are definitely the Natasha Denona ones, but I couldn't one, so I'm just going to show you guys all of these cute little dears. They are 5-pan palettes, no bigger than the palm of my hand, and they all have 5 shades in them. Some have 2 mattes and 3 shimmers, some have 3 mattes and 2 shimmers. They do a mix. This one is the Sunset. This is the Mini Lila. Sorry, my fingers are in the way. This is the Mini Star. And this is the Mini Tropic, which is the 5 shades at the bottom of the Tropic palette that everybody liked. Now, my least favorite, I might as well do like a sort of review. My least favorite is the Tropic. Some of these shades are a little difficult to use. The mattes are great, but like that really dark blue shimmer was kind of a mess. Much better was the one in the Lila palette, and this one is kind of a duochrome. It looks pink, it looks blue, it is really, really pretty. I think this is probably my favorite. Yeah, this is probably my favorite. The purples are really pretty. It comes with 3 mattes, 2 shimmers. This is the favorite. Now, I like these two as well. I didn't have any trouble blending any of these shadows. This one has 2 mattes and this one also has 2 mattes. And this shade here, the blue brown, really, really pretty shade as well. So I like these. I know a lot of people don't like them for some reason, but I've never had any problem with them. I've liked them quite a bit. I don't know. So yeah, those are definitely the smallest. And then my largest palette is definitely the James Charles palette. I do not have a bigger palette than this in my entire collection. The Zodiac from ABH, or the Zodiac from BH Cosmetics, is definitely a pretty big palette, but this one is just freaking-gantic. Like, it's gigantic. It's freaking-gantic. And yeah, I do like this. I think the shadows work pretty damn well. I used it, you know, quite a few times. I do have a kind of sourness with this, you know, with James Charles and ABH and all that stuff. Like, I bought the palette because I thought it was really cool. You know, James Charles getting into Sephora, Morphe's getting into Sephora is such a cool thing. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just gross. But I have used this palette. It is pretty nice. The red works pretty good. So, staining advised. Don't be an idiot. Red shadow stain. It's as simple as that. But that's definitely my biggest palette. Now, best memory. I picked something that I wasn't like, this is like a best YouTube memory, I guess. So my first video that, well, no, the video on my channel that has the most views to this, well, my eyeshadow palette collection might have more views now, but in the beginning, when I like, you know, a couple years after me starting to do this, it started to bump up in views and I couldn't understand why. The Focallure palettes, you can get these on eBay. I don't use these. They're old, but I did a review on one or both, I can't remember. These are like Naked dupes, essentially. They're dupes for the Naked palettes. And like, they look really similar to the Naked palettes. They are not the best quality in the world, but they hold a special memory just about this place and about me sitting here filming my videos. And you know, like, sometimes I'm like, why are you even doing this? But then I look back on that video and how good it made me feel that I, like, you know, that people were watching my content and, you know, that's what I do this for. I do it to connect with people. And the more connections I make, the better it makes me feel that I'm being heard and that people value, you know, what I have to say, especially in a world where you don't get to say much. So yes, this is my best memory. My Focallure palettes that I will never throw away because they brought me so much joy in a time where I was just like really bummed about who I was in life. So yeah, before crying, let's get on with it. Oh, worth the hype. Essentially, a palette worth the hype. Now, I haven't used this in a bit, and I did actually use it a couple days ago, and I still love it. This is the Urban Decay X Kristen Leanne palette. You can no longer get this. It was a limited edition palette that they did with Kristen Leanne. I have pretty much always been a pretty good fan of hers. I don't follow her like I follow Tati, but I do love her down-to-earthness, and I loved this palette. I loved it so much, and I thought that the way she did it was great. Oh my gosh, this shade Leo, this was my jam. This is going to be way too hard to show on camera. It's like a duochrome. It's so pretty, and I loved her video for this palette, and I remember like this was one of the first like, you know, big collab eyeshadow palettes where I was like, I really, really want this. And I was so excited when I saw her video, and I was so excited when it came on Sephora. I really do think that this was worth the hype. I think the eyeshadows are beautiful, especially these duochromes here. Like, oh my God, Corona, which is kind of funny now, is so pretty. Like, it's this rose gold. Oh, there's not a lot of mattes in this palette. It's mostly shimmers, but like this one dye down here, you can actually work that into the crease, and it's really pretty. I just think like people were like, oh, well, you know, like this and that, and then other people were like, oh, so great. I don't know. I think that this was worth the hype. I loved it so much, and I continue to use it somewhat, but it's a beautiful palette. It really was a beautiful palette. Anyways, not worth the hype. Okay, I used this palette today, but I feel some type of way about it. So, I am a huge, and I mean huge, fan of Game of Thrones. I love the show. I've watched it so much. I've rewatched it. I really enjoyed the show. And I'm not even mad about the way it ended, honestly. But Urban Decay did a collab with Game of Thrones. And, you know, the box, like, get a grip. Look at this. Look at this. Dun, 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 dun. It's ridiculous. Ridiculously cool. And then when they showed the palette, and I have heard people talk so good about this palette and be like, I love this so much. And I used this shade today, Winterfell, all here. Beautiful shade. But I can tell you right now, I don't think this is the layout they should have done for this palette. One, there's only 3 mattes in the entire palette, and I think that was stupid of them to do. 2, some of these shimmers are so just basic, and I'm like, you can find these shimmers anywhere. Now, I'm not mad at it because I do love it still. Like, when I use this shade, it worked beautifully today. You know, the shades work gorgeous, but I just think maybe they just should have done something different. So, like, and I remember getting, like, wanting to order it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get this palette, blah, blah, blah. And I remember when they sneak peeked what the inside looked like, I was just like, what? And I remember just kind of being brought down a tiny bit, knowing that I wanted this collection so badly, but then also knowing that, like, the shades were just super basic and just kind of could have been more, I think. So, like, over time, I've definitely realized that I'm just like, meh. I love it. I think the presentation is absolutely spectacular, and I would buy it again if I had the chance. I would buy it again, but I just think that they could have done better on the palette, which made it a little less worth the hype, if you get my drift. All right, so favorite palette from a favorite brand. I swear I had cat hair in my mouth that whole time. I'm trying to not. Whew, oh my goodness. Okay, Melt has one of my favorite eyeshadow brands ever. Their eyeshadow palettes are so unique, and I just think it's beautiful. For somebody that I have all the neutrals I could ever want in the world, I want something different. And the palette I actually picked was the Radioactive palette. This is so cool, guys. Okay, so the way they have kind of done this essentially is all of these shades have some sort of glimmer in them. Okay, but essentially you could pretty much use all of them across the board as mattes in your crease. You might have like a little bit of trouble with like Uranium. That's like the only really shimmery one. But I've used all of these in the crease. They work just like mattes, but somehow they have this like little glimmer to them that is so cute. It's almost, maybe it makes them blend better. I don't know. Either way, I think this is super unique, and I think that for a rainbow palette, so pretty. Now, is this going to be somebody's standalone? No, probably not. But I still think that like this with, you know, I don't know, the James Charles palette or something like that, would be an amazing pairing, because you'd have these really bright, beautiful shades, these really bright, workable mattes. Like, oh my God, Meltdown is insanely nice. And then you could work in your lighter shades with it. I love Melt. Melt has ideas out the wazoo. Their ideas are beautiful. I can't help it. Most used. Okay, this was hard. I was looking around. Oh, here you are. I was looking around and I was like, you know what? I was looking and they were like, oh, well, oldest, you know, this isn't super, super old. This is the Best of 2018 by Too Faced. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this came with the journal. I loved on this palette so very much. Like, there's definitely other palettes in my collection that I could have picked that are older, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But like this palette, I loved on it so, so hard. And I still think that Too Faced came out with a really nice palette. I was using this a couple times this week. I used it yesterday to go to work, and I used this Party. It's so pretty. Like, it's so freaking beautiful. And it's like, you touch it and it's just like so creamy. Oh, it was beautiful. The mattes still work really well. I wasn't like super enthralled by the cool tone look. I should have went warm tone. Like, should know better by now. But I did use like Faux Fur, which is like a cooler tone brown. And I still love it. And then like a couple days before that, I used this shade Unwrapped, which is a little bit like, it's not as creamy to the touch, but it's like this really pretty purpley duochrome. If you go on my Instagram, I usually post like on my stories, look of the day, so you guys can like check out what's going on. But yeah, I loved this palette, and I used it, and I feel like I could still use it now. I usually don't. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, I used it now, but I really like it. I really love it, and I think it's one of my more used palettes in my collection. Okay, well, we're down to the last question, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I did not sit upright this whole, what am I doing? I don't even know. Anyway, the last question is the most, what is it? Most underrated. Okay, so it's funny, because I feel like a lot of makeup or eyeshadow palettes that are like quote unquote underrated were actually hyped like quite a bit, but maybe they were hyped for being bad quality or for some other reason, whatever. And then people are like, hey, I like it. Oh, hey, I like it. Like, you know, that kind of jazz. So pardon me for picking this, because I feel like it kind of was hyped to a certain degree, but I don't see anybody talking about these right now besides the brand new one that just came out, which who would have thought? This is the Norvina Pro Pigment Palette Volume 2. I pretty much bought this when it first came out. I can't remember if I did a video on this or not. But like throughout the time of me using this, there you go. Throughout the time of me using this, I've been able to create some of the most vibrantly colored looks I have ever created. And you know, all of that is because these are so pigmented. Now, the blending could be better, but clearly this is a pigment palette. The reason why you would buy a palette like this is in hopes that these shades are as pigmented and look like this. And I can tell you, they are gonna look like this. If you pack these on, they're gonna look so vibrant. You know, like I really like it. I don't think I've created a look yet that I didn't love. Now, am I in love with the shimmers? Not so much. The mattes are definitely the statement in these palettes, but I don't know, I really like this palette. If I want like a really, really blue look, I did a purple and blue look that I actually did post on my Instagram that you can go check out. And I used like these blues and this pink right here, and it was so pretty. I was floored. And I actually used like doing the foundation after you do your eyes technique, so it really turned out looking crisp and pretty. So yeah, I really like this. I think that if you're looking for like majorly bold, like standout looks, you are gonna want one of these. Pick a color story, buy one, see if you enjoy it. I think you might be like, I think you will. One thing I will say is that because there is no like cream shade in here or anything to really like blend with, I do usually use like any cream shade just like to be able to blend where my brow and my eyeshadow are gonna meet. You know what I mean? All right, guys. Wow, that was long, but I got to talk about palettes, and I'm sorry I didn't swatch as much. I feel like I did swatch a bit though. If you guys want, you know, like some swatching done, you know, just hit me up. I would love to do some kind of swatch party. Nobody wants swatch parties, but I want to swatch. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. And then I'm going to start editing these videos, and yeah, that's what we're going to do today. I also would like to probably clean my house soon. Matt will come home in a couple hours. All right. Mwah. I love you guys. Make sure you subscribe and join the Sweety Pie family. We love newbies. That's something we love. And yeah, comment down below if you enjoyed this video. And what are your newest, oldest, most expensive, least expensive? Come on, just down below. All right. I love you guys so much. Bye.